Here on a remote part of Taiwan's east coast, a large potential tourism development is dividing a local indigenous community.
Taiwan is facing labor shortages. Could improving the naturalization process be the answer? Officials grapple with treacherous roads as the country sees more and more traffic accidents. Plus, a first-of-its-kind bookstore in Chiang Mai has its eyes on Chinese-speaking tourists. Good evening and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Plans to develop farmland on Taiwan's east coast into a hotel and tourist center have environmental groups up in arms and dividing the local community. Rick Lau reports from the village of Bishilian.
"27-year-old architecture student Gaza Zabiyat has fond memories of growing up in this small indigenous village of Bishilian on Taiwan's east coast. In his native Amis, Bishilian means where the goats roam, and his family have long fished and farmed along this coastline. It's a connection with the land he now fears will be disturbed.
都是水泥平房，都是观光化。我们跟山林为伍，跟自然为伍。我们是透过它，所以才会有现在的阿美族人。
This 10-hectare Amis farmland is earmarked for development with hotels, holiday villas and restaurants, a project currently awaiting approval from Taiwan's Interior Ministry. This is one of the remotest parts of Taiwan, hundreds of kilometres from the capital and other big economic centres. Developing this area has divided the local community, forcing residents to weigh up whether the jobs and income it could bring are worth the potential damage it could do to the local environment and culture. Developers have looked to quell residents' concerns, saying that they are complying with Taiwan's environmental protection laws and that their plan will bring a much-needed boost to the local economy.
我们成功镇的人口外流非常严重，就是本地的那个就业机会比较少，所以很多青壮人员就是到外地去就业。
不要满地乱开发，
立即撤回满地户。
But some are not convinced, feeling like the company ignored their concerns about the project's impact on nearby forests and a century-old coral reef. Large tourism projects in indigenous areas like this have been mismanaged in the past. 30 kilometres down the coast, an 80-room hotel now lies abandoned after the local community took developers to court over the project's environmental impact.
它是都有提供我们居民去表达意见的机会，但是只有就是短短的时间，然后表达完之后，其实还是政府自己要去做讨论，我们民众是没有办法直接去做这个决定。
Taiwan's indigenous communities are protected by law. But Gazao and other activists like him say that they struggle to get their voices heard.
或许，如果哪天这里全部都变观光化了，那到底阿美族人他最后的依存在哪里？他的历史价值到底在哪里？
The people of Bishilian have lived on this land for thousands of years, long before the arrival of the Han Chinese, who are now the majority here in Taiwan. These communities have battled to protect their land and way of life for much of their history, a struggle for existence that they say they are committed to fighting. Howard Zhang and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
As Taiwan and China grapple with a maritime tussle after 2 Chinese fishers died, the deputy chair of Taiwan's main opposition, Kuomintang, met with China's top Taiwan affairs official. Leslie Lau reports from Taipei.
Amid rising tensions between Taiwan and China, the opposition Kuomintang's deputy party chair, Andrew Xia, is visiting China. Now, his trip comes shortly after a Taiwanese Coast Guard boat collided with a Chinese fishing vessel, leaving 2 Chinese fishers dead. His trip is the first time a Taiwanese official is visiting China since the incident. Before he set out on his trip, the KMT said that Xia had no plans of meeting with any Chinese officials, but that changed as he met with the head of China's Taiwan Affairs Office, Song Tao, on Thursday. Taiwan's relationship with China is fraught. China sees Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory, a claim that the ruling Democratic Progressive Party flat out rejects. And because of these opposing views, China refuses to hold exchanges with Taiwan. But the KMT's position is closer to that of Beijing. It believes in one China. And because of that, China's ruling Communist Party is happy to have talks with the KMT. Now, in his meeting with Xia, Song blamed the DPP for the death of the 2 Chinese fishers.
民进党当局粗暴对待大陆渔民，致2位大陆渔民遇难。
Xia said that the lack of official communication between Taiwan and China is dangerous and that the KMT will use its majority in the legislature to keep the DPP in check and make sure Taiwan handles the incident properly.
我们会敦促、会监督民进党政府，一定要能够妥善地处理这件事情。
This isn't the first time Xia is leading a delegation to China. But against a backdrop of this Coast Guard incident, it's a rare moment of communication between Taiwan and China during a tense time. John Su and Leslie Liao in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's military says a Chinese satellite launched late on Thursday posed no threat to the country. The rocket carrying the high-orbit internet satellite passed over the Western Pacific and breached Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. Now, that area is not part of Taiwan's territory, but it is used by the military as a defensive buffer zone. Taiwan's military says that it monitored the launch and would have responded if necessary. Taiwan's cabinet is working to make it easier for some foreign nationals to become naturalized citizens here. It has submitted amendments to the Nationality Act as part of the country's efforts to bring in more foreign talent. The changes would lower residency requirements for foreign professionals in Taiwan from 3 years to 2. The changes would also allow organizations to apply for naturalization on behalf of unadopted children in their care. Currently, stateless children need to be adopted by a Taiwanese national in order to apply. These amendments still require legislative approval. Taiwan's nationalization rules pose different challenges for different groups. To learn more about this process, Chris Gorin spoke with legal consultant Michael Fahey.
Under normal circumstances, what does it take to become a naturalized citizen in Taiwan? And are there any recent changes that you think have a material effect on most applicants?
So, in general, a foreign national needs to live in Taiwan for 5 consecutive years and be a resident for 183 days, so physically present in Taiwan in each of those years. And then there's a few other requirements like a clean criminal record, and you need to show evidence that you can support yourself. But those are pretty trivial. But the big one is that almost everyone has to renounce the nationality, their original nationality.
So these foreign professionals, the official government numbers show that in 2023, last year, there were only 28 people who became naturalized citizens in Taiwan through, under this category of foreign professionals. And 12 of those, almost half, were from the United States. Meanwhile, of course, there are hundreds of thousands of South and Southeast Asian people living in Taiwan. And I'm just wondering, does the discrepancy between these two figures tell us anything about the Taiwan government's preferences when it comes to new citizens?
There are now, since 2017, there's been a very, very narrow exception for what they call high-level or senior-level professionals. These are people, they don't have to be Nobel laureates, but they're typically people who have, a long track record in Taiwan of high achievement. What you're talking about are those high-level professionals who were able to naturalized and then become dual citizens. So there are these really exceptional types. So that's considered to be a very extreme privilege.
The KMT has recently been advocating for foreign spouses from the PRC to have a faster path to naturalization. How are foreign spouses from the PRC treated under Taiwan's existing law? And, given the sensitivities around cross-strait relations, how does reform in this specific area play out in Taiwan's domestic politics?
Well, the PRC spouses or PRC nationals that's the People's Republic of China, are in a special category. It's probably best to see them as quasi-foreigners. And so there are special laws dealing with all kinds of relations with China, including people-to-people relations. Of course, there's also the concern that some of these people could be participating in United Front activities in Taiwan or even conducting espionage here. All that said, those I think are all legitimate concerns, but it is really important to keep in mind that the vast majority of PRC spouses in Taiwan are at the bottom of society. There's a lot of prejudice against them, and they have a lot of social problems that they're facing. So it's a very complex and nuanced issue, I think. Unfortunately, it provokes very strong emotions and very black and white views on it, depending on what kind of identity you have.
That was legal consultant Michael Fahey speaking with our reporter Chris Gorin. Traffic accidents here in Taiwan have only gotten worse over the past year, and the Transport Ministry and citizen groups are scrambling to improve road safety. Tiffany Wong reports.
Buses, cars, scooters, bikes. There's no shortage of hazards on the roads in Taiwan, and that makes it a dangerous place for drivers and pedestrians. According to new government figures, traffic accidents increased nearly 7% in 2023 from the previous year to exceed 400,000, causing injury and death to over 540,000 people, an 8% increase from the previous year. The Transport Ministry says it has a new plan for road safety this year and hopes to reduce the number of fatalities by 5% and pedestrian deaths by 7%. The ministry is trying to improve road safety by implementing clear signage for vehicles around pedestrian areas and stricter licensing requirements for scooter drivers, which were involved in the majority of traffic accidents last year. Those who took the new road hazard awareness tests say they have become better drivers.
如果没有这个测验的话，其实我以前是不知道，但是有这个测验的话，我就可能就可以多了解这些情况，所以我觉得它还是有帮助。
你做过之后，你要有那个意识到什么有危险的地方。
But some people say the government needs to do more to protect pedestrians.
我们看到全年度的交通死亡人数依然是突破了3000人，并没有明显的下降。我们感到非常的遗憾以及不舍。即使如此，交通部却也不愿意与我们民间来沟通讨论，来制定新的交通政策。
With over 2% of Taiwan's population injured on the roads last year, the country's dangerous traffic is a problem authorities can't ignore. But making the roads safer won't happen overnight, and for some, changes may come too late. Scott Huang and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
A man who drove a pickup truck into a police station in Keelung has been killed. A police officer at the front desk was killed in the ramming, and then another was injured. The suspect fled the scene on foot and ran onto nearby train tracks where he was hit by an oncoming train. Police are investigating the motive of the attack, but they do not believe it was an act of revenge against the police force. Taiwan's manufacturing sector is seeing a rebound after industrial production spiked in January. Taiwan's production index value surged almost 16% from a year earlier, ending about a year and a half of declines. The Economy Ministry says renewed demand for artificial intelligence, high-speed computing, and cloud-based data services are fueling the comeback. Restocking in preparation for a Lunar New Year buying spree also helped boost production. Taiwan has been rated as the second freest country in Asia amid declining global freedom. Freedom House has released its annual Global Freedom Report, scoring 201 countries on political rights and civil liberties. Here in Asia, Taiwan was only behind Japan, with 94 points out of 100. 52 countries saw their scores decrease this year, while only 21 countries improved. The report cited election rigging and authoritarian aggressions for falling global freedom. A popular Taipei-based bookstore has opened a branch in Thailand, specializing in Chinese language literature from around the world. Laurel Stewart has this report.
A place to read, relax, and connect. This bookstore in Thailand's second biggest city, Chiang Mai, offers a wide range of Chinese language literature. It's the first store of its kind in the city, and one member of staff says the store has been able to capitalize on Chiang Mai's popularity among Asian tourists.
最大的原因就是这边华人真的很多了。我自己是大概感觉到从去年就是中国的那个疫情风控放开开始，其实有非常多的中国人搬到清迈来生活。然后呢，就是清迈也一直是台湾的热门旅游地嘛。
The flagship Nowhere bookstore is in Taipei's Ximen shopping district, and this new Thai venture seeks to continue its legacy of providing a safe and comfortable environment for readers to peruse books, free from the threat of censorship. The world of Chinese language publishing is politically fraught. China is well known for banning books the government doesn't like, and Hong Kong is no longer the safe haven it once was, with notable cases of bookstore owners arrested for selling works deemed inappropriate by Beijing.
然后我们有几个主题是非常就是大的关注的方向，一个是离散，就跟我们这个时代情绪有关系嘛。然后第二个是跟东南亚的书有关的也会比较多。 然后是跟中国和香港的这种社会现状啊、历史的书也会比较多。
The store stocks books and magazines from across Hong Kong, mainland China, and Taiwan, and hosts events allowing Chinese speakers living in or passing through Chiang Mai to congregate and discuss social issues from around the region.
有一个类似于像城市客厅一样的地方，就是我知道来这里就会有讲华语的朋友在。 然后包括会有一些很多活动，就是可以大家会华语聊，就是看看这个世界在发生什么样的事情。我觉得这个收获挺大的。
Amid censorship and crackdowns on literature in places like China, bookstores like this one offer readers from the Chinese-speaking world a safe space to explore subjects too sensitive to discuss back home, because here they can be nowhere. Ryan Wu, Reese Ayres and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, scientists might have found a way for amputees to get their feeling back. Stay tuned.
Start your weekend with a cup of coffee and a moment to reflect on what happened this week.
Hello and welcome.
We've got you covered, from defense and politics to high-tech and the arts.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
You make the coffee, we make the news. Here's what happened on TaiwanPlus.
For more stories from here in Taiwan and around the world, visit us on social media or follow our website at TaiwanPlus.com.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. At least 112 Palestinians have been killed while scrambling for humanitarian aid near Gaza City. Israel blamed the deaths on a crowd stampede and then aid trucks running into people. But Gaza's health authorities rejected those claims, saying Israeli forces opened fire on the crowd. More than 280 people were wounded in the incident. Palestinians in Gaza are confirming the health ministry's account.
واحنا متوجهين على دوار النابلسي بقى كل اهالي شمال قطاع غزه متوجهين الى شمال على دوار النابلسي الكل بقى متوجه هناك تفاجأنا انه الساعه 4 الا 5 دقائق الدبابات الاسرائيليه تطلق النار على الناس بشكل عشوائي وبشكل مباشر بعدها ما لقينا إلا الشهداء والمصابين والجرحى مرمين في الأرض.
At least 43 people have been killed after a shopping mall went up in flames in Bangladesh's capital of Dhaka. Rosie Greninger reports.
Grief and chaos in the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka after a massive blaze swept through a shopping mall. The fire erupted from a restaurant at around 10 p.m. local time and spread through all 6 levels of the building. People tried to escape, but 43 were killed and at least 75 injured.
আর সামনের এই গ্লাস ভেঙে আগুন ভিতরে ধোয়া যখন এসে তখন তো আর দাঁড়ানোর মতো পসিবল হয়নি দেন আমাদের একটা কেশিয়ার একটা সার্ভিসম্যান একটু আগে শুনলাম মারা গেছে আমাদের ওই কেশিয়ারটা দেন সবাইরে একদম ভুলোরে যারা ছিল সবাইরে মাস্ক দিয়েছে তারপরে যখন বেশি পরিমাণটা যখন বেশি হয়ে গেছে আর মনে করেন পরিস্থিতি ভালো না তখন ধোয়াটা বেশি দেওয়া হয়েছে আগুনের তাপমাত্রা বেশি ঢুকাচ্ছে তখন যে যার মতো পারছে উপরে নিচে দেন আমিও কিচেনের ভিতর দিয়ে আমার স্টেট রুমের গ্রিল ভেঙে আমি 2 তলা থেকে এক তলা যে লাফ দিয়ে আমি নিজে
13 units of firefighters rushed to battle the blaze, rescuing people from the roof and windows of the charred building with a crane. The fire was put out after 2 hours of frantic efforts.
ফায়ার ব্রিগেডের কর্মকর্তা এবং তাদের উদ্ধারকর্মীরা কাজ করেছে আইন শৃঙ্খলা রক্ষাকারী বাহিনী সকলেই এখানে কাজ করেছে এবং যেভাবে উদ্ধার হয়েছে আগুন নিয়ন্ত্রণে আসলেও মানুষের কিন্তু ক্ষতি হয়েছে এখন পর্যন্ত পুরোপুরি জানা যায়নি তবে আস্তে ধীরে জানা যাবে
Crowds of relatives have gathered outside the Dhaka Medical College Hospital, waiting for the news of 22 survivors transported here in a critical condition from serious burns. It's not yet known what caused the fire, and the government has formed a 5-member committee to conduct an investigation. But for these grieving families, no explanations will make up for what they've lost. Andy Sher and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Baseball superstar Shohei Otani has gotten married. The two-way sensation made the announcement on Instagram. Otani did not disclose his spouse's identity, only saying that it was a woman from his home country, Japan. He has asked people to respect his privacy and not contact his family during this time. Now, last year, Otani signed a 10-year, $700 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the biggest sports deal in history.
それは全くなかったですね。彼女自身も僕の意見を尊重してくれてますし、そこはここまで野球とは別のことなので、どこに行っても来るっていう感じだったので、そこは全くもう関係なく自分がどこで野球をしたいかっていうところが一番のところだったかなと思います。
Grabbing science by the ball. A team of researchers at a university in Taiwan have developed prosthetic skin that could have wide-reaching applications in medicine and robotics. Reese Ayers touches base with this report.
Virtual reality you can really feel. This unassuming rubbery patch is the latest in prosthetic skin technology from researchers at Taiwan's National Zhengxing University. The tactile black panel expands and contracts on touch, while a new shielding feature takes this technology to the next level.
我是做滑动的动作的话，这个我手过去的时候，经过这个线路，那它也会造成不必要的讯号产生。那如果没有做屏蔽这个功能的话，它会有互相干扰的问题。
By attaching this skin to prosthetic limbs and active nerves, researchers say the technology has the potential to allow people with amputated limbs to experience real touch, and could have applications in robotics and human-to-machine interfaces. All that without needing a power source.
第一个是它不需要电池，所以它可以借由触摸的时候呢产生电力。那我们未来可能可以跟这个神经做一个结合，让这个义肢皮肤重获这个触觉的能力，而且是在不需要电池的状况下面实现。
The team's technology has been published in Nature Communications, an internationally peer-reviewed journal, where it stands alongside other research that seeks to improve the human experience. Eason Chen and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
Marking World Seagrass Day on March 1st, Taiwan's Agriculture Ministry says 30% of the world's seagrass has disappeared over the past century. But as Irene Lin reports, they are finding ways to save it.
Luscious meadows under the sea, a beautiful scene that's now become a rarity, as 30% of the world's seagrass has died out. For the past decade, Taiwan's agriculture ministry has been trying to find ways to save the seagrass around the Penghu Islands, painstakingly transplanting seagrass on the seafloor. It's a project that's now seeing results.
几乎在这12年间，它的面积扩增了50倍。那所以在操作的难度上，生物的本身跟环境条件如果适宜，那其实它是有机会来做这样的一个面积增长的。
It's small in size, but seagrass is essential to balancing the world's ecosystems. It stores up to 18% of the ocean's carbon dioxide, helping maintain stable fishery resources and purifying the seawater. Ocean researchers say keeping seagrass healthy is crucial for the environment.
Without that, our entire planet is in severe trouble. Beyond that, pollution is also very important, so protecting our shorelines from pollution. Overfishing can also have very negative impacts on kelp forests.
And in Penghu, replanting the seagrass requires specific conditions, such as seawater levels and water quality. But researchers say pollution is making it difficult.
生活废污水的排放，如果越来越严重的话，就会造成某些排放的局部的区域。 它的水质可能会变优氧化或不适合海草床的生长。
The world's seagrass is dwindling fast, but Taiwan's researchers have found that it's still not too late to help the ocean's metals regrow. Luffy Lin and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us tonight on TaiwanPlus News. Visit our website or follow us on social media for more of our reports. Finally, check out these highlights from the Free Ride World Tour in the snow-covered mountains of Georgia. I'm Eric Gao. Take care. Have a great weekend.